The roar of cannons, the thunder of warplanes, the pounding of heavy boots crushing the damp earth, these were the sounds echoing across Asia in the early 1940s. As World War II spread and Japan rose as one of the Axis powers, Southeast Asia was engulfed in fire and blood. Yet behind the brutal battles, the long occupations, and the polished propaganda, there lurked another shadow, darker and far more secret. A massive covert operation to seize and conceal unimaginable treasures, looted from across Asia to fuel the empire's ambitions. It was known by a deceptively elegant name, Golden Lily Operation. But there was nothing graceful about it. Directed by the highest ranks of the Japanese Imperial Command, this campaign was designed to strip entire nations of their wealth, gold, gems, cultural treasures, and funnel them back to Tokyo. From the banks of Shanghai to the temples of Burma, from the vaults of Singapore to the palaces of Indonesia, Japanese forces systematically plundered riches on an unprecedented scale. At the center of this story stood a general whose name would forever be linked to both military triumph and shadowy mystery, Tomoyuki Yamashita, known as the Tiger of Malaya, after his swift, devastating conquest of Singapore in 1942. Yamashita's brilliance and brutality made him a legend of Japanese military power in Southeast Asia. But his name would later be tied not only to victory, but to one of the greatest lost treasure legends of the 20th century. According to multiple accounts, Yamashita was entrusted with overseeing the concealment of a staggering hoard, tons of gold bullion, statues of jade and ivory, diamonds, pearls, and priceless works of art. The plan was simple but desperate. Originally destined for transport to Japan, the treasures became too risky to move as the tide of war turned. By 1944, with American forces advancing, the sea routes were no longer safe. Thus, Yamashita and his men chose the Philippines, strategically located, yet close to Japan, as the final hiding place for the empire's plunder. Imagine the Philippine jungles in 1944, sweltering heat, monsoon rains, and columns of emaciated prisoners of war forced at gunpoint to dig deep into the earth. These men were not building fortifications for battle, but constructing vast underground vaults, designed like labyrinths, reinforced with steel and concrete, and packed with booby traps and explosives. Some were sealed with time delay bombs, others with tunnels that collapsed once sealed. Survivor testimonies describe hundreds of such vaults, scattered across Luzon, Mindanao, and other key areas. Into these caverns went crates of gold, bags of diamonds, statues of Buddha made of solid gold. And when the vaults were sealed, the workers, the prisoners and conscripted locals, were executed, buried alive, or blown apart with explosives. Their deaths, many believe, gave rise to the legend of a curse, the curse of Yamashita's gold, a curse born from blood and silence. But how immense was this treasure? Estimates suggest its value could reach hundreds of billions of dollars in today's terms. From banks and treasuries in China, from colonial reserves in Singapore and Malaysia, from temples adorned with centuries-old relics across Burma and Indonesia, every ounce of gold and gem was seized. Rumors speak of treasures so vast they seem almost mythical. Giant Buddha statues of solid gold weighing a ton, crowns encrusted with emeralds, colossal pearls, and entire archives of cultural artifacts meant to be shipped to Tokyo. If even a fraction of these accounts are true, Yamashita's gold was not just wealth, it was a hidden empire of art and riches. By late 1944 and early 1945, as American troops stormed the Philippines, Yamashita's forces frantically buried treasure after treasure. The night echoed with the rumble of trucks carrying crates of bullion into the jungle, the forced cries of prisoners digging under torchlight, the hiss of rain on mud as dynamite sealed tombs forever. Outside, the war was lost. Inside the jungles, the empire's last hope of preserving its fortune was being entombed in darkness. When Japan finally surrendered, General Yamashita was captured, tried, and executed for war crimes. He never revealed the locations of the treasure vaults. His silence became the foundation of one of the greatest legends of the modern age, Yamashita's gold. What makes this legend so haunting is the blend of undeniable history and enduring mystery. We know Japan looted Asia on a colossal scale. We know prisoners built vaults and many never returned. We even know of US intelligence files that hint at post-war discoveries. And yet, no one can say for certain, where is the treasure now? Was it ever recovered, or does it still lie beneath the jungles of the Philippines, waiting? That question remains the spark for the obsession, the madness, and the blood that would follow in the decades to come. For where there is treasure, there will always be those willing to risk everything to find it. The skies over the Philippines in 1944 were heavy and dark, drenched by endless tropical rains that seemed determined to wash away the stains of war. But deep inside the jungles, in places where sunlight could barely pierce through the canopy, something far more sinister was being constructed, not shelters, not fortifications, but vast underground tombs of steel and stone, built to conceal the empire's stolen fortune. Locals would later call them the Death Vaults. For once you entered, you almost never came back. Eyewitnesses spoke of how the Japanese army forced thousands of prisoners of war and Filipino civilians to dig a sprawling network of tunnels and vaults. These underground chambers were carved deep into the earth, sometimes dozens of meters below the surface, reinforced with steel and concrete, then camouflaged beneath the dense jungle and rocky hillsides. But they were not mere hiding places. They were engineered as lethal machines of death. The vaults were laced with booby traps. Heavy steel doors sealed entrances. Secondary exits were rigged to collapse once construction was complete. Some chambers were even closed off with timed explosives, burying treasure, workers, and soldiers alike beneath tons of rubble. To make matters worse, the Japanese sometimes built false tunnels, elaborate decoys leading treasure hunters into rooms filled with nothing but mines, poison gas, or empty stone coffins. The few who survived these hell pits left chilling testimonies. They remembered long columns of men herded into caves, their torches flickering against wet stone, the sound of shovels biting earth, and the sobbing of those who realized they were digging their own graves. One American POW later swore he saw golden Buddha statues weighing over a ton each, lowered carefully by pulley systems into chambers, then entombed in concrete. Others claimed they witnessed wooden crates stamped with Asian bank seals, filled with gleaming gold bars, or army chests so heavy with diamonds and gems that a dozen men could barely move them. And when the vaults were sealed, most of the workers were executed, shot, starved, or buried alive. Only a rare handful escaped or were released in chaos. It was their scattered testimonies that gave birth to the enduring legend of Yamashita's gold. Among the people of the Philippines, whispers spread, the treasure is buried with blood, and whoever finds it must pay the price. Treasure hunters later reported eerie phenomena, strange glowing lights in the jungle, phantom cries in the night, sudden accidents that killed entire search parties. There were tales of vaults that exploded the moment they were breached, swallowing everyone inside. Others described chambers filled with toxic gas that suffocated intruders within minutes. Locals called it the curse of Yamashita. But in truth, the so-called curse was likely nothing more than the deadly ingenuity of the Japanese engineers who designed these traps. When Japan surrendered in 1945, General Yamashita was captured and executed for war crimes. Not once did he reveal the locations of the treasure vaults. His closest officers, if they knew, either died in battle or were executed. Overnight, the entire web of secrets was swallowed by silence. All that remained were unanswered questions. How many vaults truly exist? How many were filled with gold and jewels? How many were secretly seized by Allied forces or shadowy organizations after the war? These gaps in history became fertile ground for myth. Out of silence, the legend of Yamashita's gold grew, twisting through decades of rumor, obsession, and blood. But the story did not end in the tunnels. In the years after the war, whispers of the hidden hoards spread like wildfire. They lured thousands of treasure hunters into the jungles of the Philippines. Some swore they touched gold. Others vanished without a trace. When the gunfire of World War II finally ceased, the shadow of Yamashita's gold did not vanish with the fall of the Japanese Empire. On the contrary, whispers of hidden vaults filled with golden Buddhas, jade statues, chests of diamonds, and countless gold bars buried somewhere in the jungles of the Philippines spread like wildfire. And those whispers ignited a frenzy, decades of treasure hunts so reckless and desperate they left behind a trail of blood and broken lives. By the late 1940s, only a few years after the war, the Philippines was already buzzing with rumors. Secret groups began combing through the forests of Luzon and Mindanao. From local villagers to foreign adventurers, all were lured by the same intoxicating dream: strike gold once, and you'll be a billionaire overnight. But with every dig came danger. Some groups reported suffocating gas seeping from the earth, killing men instantly. Others stumbled upon collapsed tunnels, revealing skeletal remains, the doomed prisoners who had once been forced to dig those very vaults. The gruesome discoveries only deepened belief in the curse of Yamashita. Among thousands of treasure hunters, one name shines brightest: Rogelio Roxas, a Filipino locksmith turned treasure seeker. In 1971, after years of chasing leads and listening to local testimonies, Roxas claimed he discovered one of Yamashita's treasure vaults. What he saw, he swore, would haunt him forever. Dozens of wooden crates packed with neatly stacked gold bars. And most astonishing of all, a solid gold Buddha statue nearly 1 ton in weight, its hollow interior stuffed with diamonds and gemstones. Roxas didn't just witness it. He smuggled out several gold bars as proof. For the first time, Yamashita's gold seemed to step out of myth and into reality. But Roxas's fortune soon turned into tragedy. News of his discovery reached the iron-fisted regime of President Ferdinand Marcos. Roxas was arrested, tortured, and forced to reveal what he knew. The golden Buddha and gold bars were seized. From then on, he lived in poverty, constantly watched and threatened. In 1993, Roxas died under suspicious circumstances. Many believe he was murdered. Yet his story refused to die. His family took the Marcoses to court in Hawaii, sparking one of the most famous treasure lawsuits in history. In 1996, the court ruled that Roxas had indeed discovered part of Yamashita's gold, and that Ferdinand Marcos had unlawfully seized it. Though the billions in damages could never truly be recovered, the verdict gave new weight to the belief that Yamashita's gold was no mere legend. Rumors swirled that Ferdinand Marcos had secretly amassed vast wealth through Yamashita's hoards. Some testimonies and leaked documents suggested that Marcos used the gold to consolidate political power, fund covert operations, and transfer billions abroad. Even darker whispers claimed that after the war, the CIA had also seized portions of the treasure, funneling it into black funds to bankroll Cold War operations across the globe. If true, Yamashita's gold wasn't just buried treasure, it was a hidden engine that shaped geopolitics in the shadows. But Roxas was not alone. Thousands of others, from poor villagers to well-equipped foreigners, risked everything chasing the dream. Some came armed with modern metal detectors, drilling machines, and maps, only to be killed by toxic gas or explosions. Some sold land, homes, and life savings, only to die penniless. Others claimed to find cryptic symbols carved into stone, or half-burned maps leading to vaults, but then vanished in the jungle, never to be seen again. For the people of the Philippines, Yamashita's gold became both a dream of salvation and a nightmare of obsession. The question remained: if the treasure truly existed, why had no one ever uncovered it all? Had most of it been seized by Marcos and foreign intelligence? Or was the legend itself nothing more than an elaborate trap, feeding on human greed? One thing was certain: whether truth or myth, the legend of Yamashita's gold had the power to hypnotize, driving men into danger, poverty, and even death. Decades of searching yielded fragments of hope, but never the whole. And this fueled the great debate. Was Yamashita's gold real, or just the most enduring treasure hoax of the 20th century? Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the Yamashita's gold story does not lie in the glittering mountains of treasure themselves, but in the enduring question that has haunted generations: did the treasure truly exist, or was it all just a legend, woven from ambition, greed, and fear? First, no one denies that the Japanese army plundered wealth on a colossal scale during World War II. Historical records describe thousands of tons of gold, silver, and jewels confiscated from China, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and beyond. The infamous Golden Lily operation has been confirmed by many researchers as a genuine secret campaign. It wasn't mere rumor, It was a systematic operation, allegedly sanctioned by members of the imperial family itself. And the Philippines, sitting at a critical crossroad in the Pacific, played a key role in hiding these stolen riches. And then there was the case of Rogelio Roxas. Skeptics may dispute his claims, but the Hawaii court ruling in 1996 officially recognized that Roxas had indeed discovered treasure, and that President Marcos had unlawfully seized it. That judgment alone implied that at least part of Yamashita's gold was real. Still, doubts remain. Many historians argue, if such vast treasure truly existed, why has no definitive proof, photographs, verifiable artifacts, ever been publicly presented? Some believe that most of Japan's loot was either shipped back to the home islands or seized by the Allies at the war's end. The tales of vast underground vaults left behind in the Philippines, they claim, are exaggerations fueled by greed and fading wartime memories. Others insist that the legend was deliberately inflated by figures like Marcos to conceal the shady origins of their immense personal wealth. One of the most controversial elements in the Yamashita saga is the alleged involvement of the United States, particularly the CIA. Declassified documents and eyewitness accounts hint that after the war, Americans may have recovered a significant portion of the treasure. According to this theory, the CIA secretly funneled Yamashita's gold into black funds, using it to finance covert Cold War operations, from anti-communist campaigns in Asia to coups in Latin America. If true, Yamashita's gold was not just buried treasure. It was a hidden financial engine that may have quietly reshaped global history. On another level, the belief in Yamashita's gold persists among ordinary Filipinos, not because of official records, but because of living folklore. Generations of villagers recount tales of strange lights in the jungle, sudden explosions during digs, or tunnels filled with toxic gas. To them, Yamashita's gold is more than mere metal. It is a living legend, a paradox of hope and fear interwoven into their cultural memory. So, what is the truth? Perhaps Yamashita's gold exists, perhaps it was seized long ago, or perhaps it is nothing more than an elaborate myth. But one thing is certain, its enduring mystery has made it immortal. Because sometimes, the true value of a treasure is not in its gold or gems, but in its power to hypnotize, to lure generation after generation into obsession, sacrifice, and tragedy. And it is this blurred line between reality and myth that makes Yamashita's gold one of the most enduring treasure mysteries of the 20th century. Whether real or imagined, Yamashita's gold has transcended the Philippines. It has become part of global culture, appearing in books, films, documentaries, and in the imagination of millions around the world. And that leads us to the final chapter, the legacy of Yamashita, a legend that never fades. After decades of tales and controversy, Yamashita's gold has grown far beyond the idea of a mere hidden treasure. It is no longer only about how much gold and jewels remain or where they might be buried. It has become a cultural symbol, a global legend, carrying with it stories of obsession, power, and mystery. From frenzied treasure hunts in the Philippine jungles to rumors whispered across the globe, Yamashita's gold has left behind a legacy that is as haunting as it is captivating. The allure of the legend has echoed powerfully in modern culture. International documentaries from National Geographic to Discovery Channel have revisited the tale of the lost treasure. Best-selling books, such as Gold Warriors by Sterling and Peggy Seagrave, have spread theories of Yamashita's gold to readers worldwide. Novels and even video games have borrowed inspiration from it. Secret maps, underground vaults, deadly traps, all have become classic motifs of the treasure hunt genre. In the Philippines, the story seeps into everyday life. Locals tell it like folklore, using it to explain mysterious disappearances in the jungle, sudden mine explosions, or strange flickering lights at night. For many, Yamashita's gold is both a folktale and a hidden hope. But Yamashita's legacy is not confined to pop culture. It is also deeply entangled with power and politics. The case of Ferdinand Marcos is the clearest example. His alleged seizure of Yamashita's treasure and use of it to consolidate power left an indelible mark on Philippine history. For many citizens, Marcos and Yamashita's gold became inseparable, symbols of greed and corruption. The rumors didn't stop there. Whispers that the CIA recovered parts of the treasure and used it as secret funds pushed the story into the realm of geopolitics. If true, Yamashita's gold was not just a Philippine mystery, but a hidden force that influenced the course of the Cold War. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of Yamashita's gold is the obsession it created. Thousands of people have dedicated their lives to finding it. Some bankrupted themselves, others perished in jungles, and some died under suspicious circumstances after announcing discoveries. Yet the hunt continues. Generation after generation, new seekers march into the forests with old maps, metal detectors, and prayers to shield them from the so-called curse. This reveals a profound truth. Sometimes, the power of a legend surpasses the power of reality. People don't need to see the gold with their own eyes. It is enough to believe in it, and that belief is strong enough to drive action, sacrifice, and even madness. Yamashita's gold is more than a story of precious metals. It is a mirror of human nature. The desperate hunts, bloody conflicts, and whispered curses reflect how gold can cloud reason and turn ordinary people into reckless adventurers. Yet, alongside greed, the treasure also symbolizes fear. Fear of booby-trapped tunnels, of poisonous gas, of the war's lingering shadows. Fear of the dark forces of history itself, death, secrecy, and conspiracies never fully explained. This mixture of ambition and dread is what gives Yamashita's gold its eternal pull. Today, despite advances in science and technology that have solved many human mysteries, Yamashita's gold endures as a legend with no ending. Historians continue to debate. Filmmakers continue to dramatize. Filipinos continue to whisper. And dreamers continue to dig. Perhaps the treasure never existed on the massive scale imagined. Perhaps it was seized long ago. Yet to humanity, Yamashita's gold remains a story half real, half myth, a symbol of our unending hunger for wealth and the shadows that hunger creates. Looking back, one thing is clear. Yamashita's gold is not only buried in the earth, it is buried in the human mind. It is a treasure of imagination, of ambition, of curses, and of bloody history. And perhaps it is precisely because no final answer exists that the legend endures. For if one day the full truth were revealed, the mystery might lose its magic. But as long as Yamashita's gold remains unsolved, it will continue to shine as one of the most immortal treasure legends in human history.